Alright, let's go. Who's ready to start Case 5's trial, which I'm not going to finish. This is not the finale. I can promise you that right now. Let's go. Let's go. This is not the finale. I have class tomorrow. I can't do a finale right now. Before we begin today, I have a brief announcement. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light in these proceedings. The revelation that the well-known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice. And the discovery that a respected yard inspector was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion, that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You're at the highest levels of government. Who says you didn't contract this whole ass exchange? You need one, honestly. I don't see any ass on you. You need an ass exchange. So, you know what? It was you. Counsels, you will undertake this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. Resolve. Yes, that's my intention. My lord, if I may inquire, the defendant may speak. The defendant may speak. Oh, I did one. On what grounds is Kazuma Sogi permitted to continue in his role as prosecutor? He has admitted to colluding with the victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. He shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone leading the prosecution. I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart, requesting the judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day. You did what? In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything. My whole life for the last 10 years has all been leading up to this one day. Kazuma. Well, okay, bitch, start right now. Expose it right now, Brazzers, let's go. Whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. And I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper. Kazuma is bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression that we're heading into very dangerous territory. Is that really even Kazuma-sama standing before us? As an extreme exception to normal practices, I have granted the prosecutor's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume? Well, not really, but... Yes, my lord, you're lying. Why the fuck you lying? In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. Final boss music? We resume the closed hearing of Baroque Van Zeeks. Yep, hit me with that final boss music one more time. Poltergust 5000 not playing VTube Studio. VTube! The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Very well then, this preamble has taken long enough. Actually, it took about like 2 minutes, but... Prosecutor Sogi, begin! As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Bring Seishiro Jigoku into the courtroom. Last then, we've reached the final battle. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get to the truth. Come on, Ryunosuke. It's time for that steely resolve, because this is going to test it to the limit. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court. So it was you who issued this, was it? Your subpoena? I did what was necessary. Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you'd take that tone with me, I must say. The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked. My name is Seishiro Jigoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan. Aren't you also the minister? No, that was somebody else. That was Miko Toba, who's the Minister of Foreign Affairs. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Oh, no, I was right, okay. I am, of course, fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear he also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. So it's a great honor to be involved in negotiations. I put my all into that treaty. Judge Jigoku, I must ask. Well, I never fancied the young murdering student turning up here of all places. You acquitted me yourself, and now I'm a practicing defense lawyer. Yes, and full of self-importance like your friend across the courtroom, I see. You came here by London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium. But then, without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France. Took flight? I'd have to object to that term phrase. Then explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this, and I'm sorry to say. I declined to comment. What? Leaving the country prematurely when I was invited, and wasn't an invited guest may be questionable etiquette, but my decision is unrelated to this case. I can't be bound to testify. Unrelated, you say? I appreciate that a respected police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I'd obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that. So you would run from all this? I beg your pardon? This case is far more reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan. The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right, and you, Judge Jikoku, are at the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see the look in your eyes. That's your resolve to carry this through to the very end, too. Let's see your evidence, then. What proof do you have that Jason is it? Isn't it this? It would be the telegram from Japan, I think.
Take that!
Yeah. Well, the music stopped. I must be alright. Hey, Goody, how you doing? This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. Oh, you know what? Let me change the title before I forget. Communication contained 4 names. A. Asogi, A. Shin. Title. Freaking. I am losing my mind and my keys. T. Gregson and J. Wilson. You little... Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jigoku. What? How on earth did you... What's all this about? Why is my name on that list? This list of 4 names follows a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. A. Asogi and A. Shin are the names of assassins. No. Rabbit, thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving that sub to Cody. Very sweet. A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Giselle Brett, but her real name was Asa Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. A. Shin and her victim J. Wilson. And the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asogi, whose victim was the British police inspector, Tobias Gregson. A. Asogi and T. Gregson, one assassin from each country to kill a target residing in another. What exactly is the defense suggesting? There are these 2 cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan. were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of assassin exchange, and the telegram the defense has acquired is proof of the international contract to kill. What? What? This telegram was found in your office, Judge Jigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Judge Jigoku, what's this all about? And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you'd accepted the assassination mission, but the mark wasn't Judge Jigoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard, as shown by the name on the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed away my lips yesterday. The idea that Seishiro Jigoku was the mark came entirely from you. Ah, you deliberately avoided saying a name? The defense claims these 4 names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself? His silence only goes to prove his guilt. There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility that the scene of Inspector Gregson's actual murder was the witness's cabin aboard the SS Grouse. Judge Jigoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court. Ha ha ha. There's no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Very well then. As a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know. It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear about this alleged assassin exchange and the events of the night of 31st October. Present your formal testimony now. As you wish, my lord. It's true Kazuma Sogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. His target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there'd been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so I clearly can't be involved. So you admit it then, as this communication suggests. There really was an assassin exchange agreement between Britain and Japan. So if the shot was fired, then why was there a gunshot in your frickin' cabin, bitch? Which, of course, I don't have any evidence to prove it. Oh, this is it. This is the answer. There really was an assassin exchange agreement between Britain and Japan. A political endeavor at the highest levels, not something we can discuss. To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce somebody to commit murder. It's the most appalling thing I've ever heard. Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge, says the judge. Pardon? Asogi had a reason for taking his sword to that British inspector, you know. What? Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel? Kazuma-sama? Judge Jigoku, if you were the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. I'm not obliged to divulge that information. As I said yesterday, I killed nobody. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassin exchange that defense has identified is unrelated to the events of the case. The crucial point is this. Your police inspector can't have perished aboard that steamship in Dunkirk, because if he'd been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to Lem, in the room on Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Barak Van Zieks. Is it Barak? This is the worst time to be asking this, but I wonder if it's Barak or Baroque. To think that the seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian dealings that I probably had something to do with. Clearly, it's a plot only a government minister and a high-ranking judge such as the witness could hope to execute. Well, I seem to recall it was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Be that as it may, it is not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot. We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Barrack? Nah, I don't think that's it. I don't know, maybe it is. I don't know. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? It's too late to switch now, so I'm just going to stick with Barack, but... Barack. Yes, my lord. I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness.
Objection!
Yes, as the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Judge Jigoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that, contrary to the witness's claim, the guard wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31st. What? Where did you get that? It's evidence gathered by Mr. Sherlock Holmes. You were acquainted yesterday, if you remember. Sherlock Holmes again? According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m. and for a period of 20 minutes, all crewmen of the SS Grouse were to gather on deck for an evacuation drill. All crewmen were away from their posts, and during that 20-minute interval, of course, any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. In summary, Judge Jigoku, you had ample opportunity to commit the crime. Ugh.
Objection!
A 20-minute window of opportunity. That's an excellent find, Ryunosuke. But it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in this cabin, unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false. Is Mickey gonna come in? I feel like Mickey's gonna testify. Your accusation is nothing more than conjecture. Very true. Well, counsel. Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Jigoku's cabin that night. I'm certain of it. Because the defense has evidence to prove it. We do. You present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel. What proof do you have? What? What? Oh, I guess this is probably it. See these little things all over the place, don't you? It's the top of a pocket watch, yeah. Well, the crown, I believe. Watch would be quite useless for that one. Crown? Like what sits on top of a monarch's head? It's a very grand name for such a tiny part. But actually, yes, Mr. Naruhodo? If this is a crown, I have a feeling I might have seen a monarch around here with yeah. Okay, so yeah, this must be it, I think.
Take that!
Judge Jigoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. What is that? The crown of a pocket watch. A pocket watch? A pocket watch? And if you will observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit on the spindle protruding from the victim's watch. Now, the fact that this was retrieved from Judge Jigoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke there. Ugh. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill, in the cabin occupied by you, Judge Jigoku. Well, you're razor sharp, aren't you? You're razor sharp, aren't you, you young murderer? Stop calling me that.
Objection!
Expertly maneuvered, Ryunosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible. At first. But rather like this pocket watch, it's full of cracks. What? And I believe Judge Jigoku feels the same way. I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year. Sorry? If I'd known that it would result in anyone having to listen to this dribble, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world your ridiculous bombast. I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony. When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall into which you've stumbled. Prior to your renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge he was there, I presume. Yes, I do. Very well then, you may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of 31st October. Of course, as a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice. I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked through the door, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I soon took care of him with an Ippon soy throw, though. Please tell me how to say that. He couldn't wait to run away after that. I imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with his murder. The inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain, because his body was found in London. Oh, don't make me say it again. Ippon soy, I don't know. A common jujutsu martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavily for his watch to take. So, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you? What? The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there. Yeah, but the freaking gunshot does. I have no doubt that the inspector intended to kill me. He didn't manage to pull the trigger. Yes, because he was merely the tactician, not the Ippon Seiyoi. Okay. Not the Reaper's hand of death. Well, the testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell. Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord. This testimony holds. Judge Ikoku will be deemed to have no involvement in the case. Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here on a cross-examination. Okay, Kronos, come on. Sorry, my lord. The defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that. You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten. In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruhodo. He's being very nice to me.
Hold it!
Because the so-called guard posted at your cabin door had just let your killer pass, you mean? Apparently, Gregson told the crewman who's a police inspector, which was the truth, of course. He wouldn't have had his identification with him, though. He had his trench coat and mustache, not to mention the bag of chips. I imagine the crewman was convinced. The man accompanying him would have had two swords slung around his waist. You mean me? Who else? Yes, that's true. You would have hoped the sight of a few swords might have set off alarm bells in the guard's head. The point is, I left the cabin before its occupant returned and I immediately disembarked the ship. Certainly, all I can tell you is that only the inspector was waiting for me when I arrived back in my cabin. And you entered without any inkling of suspicion. That's right, none whatsoever. Oh, I walked through the door. That was weird.
Hold it!
Obviously, you're talking about Inspector Gregson. Yes, though at the time I didn't know the man's name. And there's no time for introduction. I value my life over my manners. By which you mean, the inspector was there to assassinate you, I suppose? That was certainly the impression given by the gun pointing in my direction, but I've never seen the muzzle of a revolver shaked about so much in all my life. Anyone would think the man had never shot somebody before. Believe it or not, most of us haven't. Anyway, there was no time to call for help. Call for the help of the crewman at the door, so I dealt with the man myself.
Hold it!
Even though the man had a gun, that was a very brave move, wasn't it? My Ponseo is faster than a bullet, I assure you. But surely all that commotion caused the crewman to come in, didn't it? Yes, of course. He burst in immediately without knocking. The inspector hurled himself at the stocky fellow and just managed to slip past him to make his escape. The outstanding guard does it again. Luckily, there aren't many situations I can't get out of using a quick Ippon Seiyoi throw.
Hold it!
The crown snapped off and the glass covering the face of the watch was cracked. Preferable to the man's head being pulled off or his spine cracking, wouldn't you say? Not that the man was spared for long. A bullet to the chest soon saw that. But the point is, the broken pocket watch doesn't prove that a murder took place. Absolutely not. All the watch proves is the power of my jujutsu throw. Whatever you say, it doesn't quite ring true that no shot was fired in that cabin. Because there was an obvious bullet hole in the wall. What are you talking about, That's what the star of your lowbrow detective stories told you, is it? Well, I don't care for such fiction. Haven't you worked it out yet, you little stripling? No murder took place in my cabin. Oh, he's just gonna deny it because we don't have a picture?
Hold it!
But there's no evidence that proves the victim ever returned to London alive. Just take a moment to think that idea of yours through now, stripling. What? If the inspector was killed on a steamship in France, how on earth could he have got back to Britain? In a trunk! When people die, their bodies remain in the same spot. It's a devil of a thing. Well, then, obviously the what? The culprit must have moved the body. How exactly? Carrying a corpse off a ship in your arms would raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think? Well, yes, that's true, but your trunk can fit it. All passenger luggage is inspected when it is unloaded from arriving vessels, and I would like to think the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman as hand luggage. If the murder had taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at sea. There would be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the body back to Britain. That's why he didn't... Oh, okay. Actually, that doesn't make any sense. That killed the idea then. But perhaps not, Miss Suzato. We've heard that the first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by the crewmen posted to guard them, which would mean that the culprit had no opportunity to dispose of the body at sea. Yes, that's true. So transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative. Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? I thought I'd been perfectly clear, but it seems I'm going to have to explain words you can understand. I think I ought to alter my testimony, with your consent, of course, my lord. I have no objection. State your amended testimony now. I just want to see what I have in case it's...
Hold it!
There's an idea. Think about it, Stripling. All passengers and crew disembarked at the same time and passed through the same checks at the border. The symposium guests were then driven straight to the hotel in carriages organized by the ministry. And we met you as soon as you arrived at the hotel. So you did. Well then, remind me, did I have a corpse over my shoulder at the time? What? No. So we're in agreement then. I couldn't have possibly brought the inspector's body back to Britain. Unless, of course, they've developed some clever device these days to instantly move things from A to B. Funny you should say that. Professor Harebrain's invention didn't actually work, if you remember, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, of course. The defense has become unusually quiet, I notice. Shut up. Yes, because there's really nothing more to say. So that's a story. Well, I suppose if you think about it, whenever you drop a teacup in the office and it breaks, we don't say, Mr. Naruhodo must have been murdered there, do we? Is that a veiled threat about what might happen to me if I break another one? And the fact is that Inspector Gregson's body was found in the little room on Fresno Street. If he really was killed in Judge Jigoku's cabin, the body would have to have been moved somehow, obviously. Transporting a dead body over a country border. That'd be impossible for the majority of people. So there must have been some special circumstances that made it possible for the culprit then. It could be a vital realization, I think, Mr. Naruhodo. Shit. Slow down. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go, now we're safe, we're safe. Let me out. Let me out. All this evidence from the last case is like killing me. Just keep looking, I guess. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I got this. Oh. Look at this man in his big-ass suitcase, actually. That must be it. I was trying to think about what had the suitcase in it.
Objection!
There's no possible way you could have moved Inspector Gregson's body, you say? I read that completely wrong, but whatever. I would say the opposite is true. And what's that supposed to mean? Far from being impossible for you to do. The transporting of Inspector Gregson's body back to Britain is something only you could do. What are you talking about, Ryunosuke? As well as being a judge, Mr. Jigoku is also Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, which means that he's exempt from his luggage search when he enters the country. We learned that when we first met you upon your arrival in London. Oh, that's right! Yeah, no, I had a feeling. I was suspicious. I was just worried it was either gonna be... I was worried about something, but like... I was so suspicious. Well, all those passport checks and luggage searches at the border took rather a lot of time. I must say I'm very envious of your ministerial status. You didn't have to go through any of that, did you? I knew you were jealous. Ha 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 ha. I presume you recall this, Judge Jigoku? It's a photograph we took in the foyer of the hotel to mark the occasion. As the court will note, you have with you your large travel trunk. Large enough, in fact, to have a corpse inside. No, Mr. Naruhodo, surely you're not suggesting. I'm afraid I am, yes. 3 days ago, when we were chatting innocently with the new arrivals from Japan in the hotel. The body of Inspector Gregson was just meters away from us, inside Judge Jigoku's trunk. Order, order, order in the court! I'm skeptical, counsel, that a grown man's body could fit inside even the largest travel trunk. It could. Because I happen to know that the witness himself, a man of considerable size, fits inside his trunk. And verifying this would be extremely simple. Wouldn't it, Judge Jigoku? But inside his trunk, how horrifying! Is that what she said? After we'd spoken with you at the Great Waterloo Hotel, you had the opportunity to visit the apparent scene on Fresno Street, taking your trunk with you in a cab to deposit the inspector's body. I don't have to listen to this nonsense. Dr. Gori, the coroner who examined the body, has confirmed the possibility. He has acknowledged that there are signs that the steps may have been taken to disguise the true time of death. The onset of the body's decomposition could have been delayed in storing it in a refrigerator. Counsel, as I remember explaining yesterday, refrigerators of the requisite size are few and far between. Yes, I'm sure they are, but there's one place they're certainly found on is large ocean liners. Such ships are equipped with electrically refrigerated cold rooms to keep fresh food fresh on their long sea voyages, and the SS Grouse is no exception. Professor Mikotoba told me about it only yesterday. Well, Judge Jigoku? However much you prolong this debate, you can't eliminate the truth. All the evidence points to you being the killer. Well, this is all very heartening. I can see that it was a wise move letting Asogi and you embark on this study tour. What are you talking about now? Logical reasoning, of course. All court proceedings will be built on logical reasoning in the new century. And I can see that you've both laid firm foundations for that already. No, Shikoku, please, stop diverting attention from the issue at hand. The defense has made an accusation against you. How do you respond? Respond? There's no need for me to respond, is there? Why ever not? Because before you can even begin to answer the question of when the victim is killed, you must first establish one key fact. Where was the victim killed? It's quite logical. The actual scene of the crime. The prosecution stance is unaltered. The killing took place in Fresno Street where the gunshot was heard. As the accused, Barak Van Zieks, shot the victim at point-blank range. Since no tangible evidence exists to disprove the prosecution's claim at the time, the defense's deductions amount to little more than an elaborate fairy tale. I'm afraid that's how the logical reasoning of the British are known for really works, young stripling. The victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly? I'm afraid it's the prosecution's claim that's the only fairy tale here. How can you say that? Quite simply, because that claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in our possession. It does. Very tantalizing. Very tantalizing, counsel. I think you would better explain yourself to the court, don't you? The prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. This evidence clearly contradicts that claim. What the hell am I supposed to present? What does this say? I just want to see if I can get this added to the, just in case. Oh, okay, cool. It's dialogue there, that's fine. What is the... Fuck. What does Gregson's autopsy say? I don't know why I keep going back to this. Nah, that ain't it. That ain't it at all. Oh, wait. Do we have a picture of Gregson? Yeah. Oh, that's not it. Is it this?
Take that!
Guess it is. A photograph of the victim in the very location you claim he wasn't killed. Yes, but the point is the posture of the body itself. Oh. If Inspector Gregson had been shot there in that room, it's out of the question that his body would have been curled up in a ball like that. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your logic is flawed. You could easily have adopted that fetal position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal.
Objection!
It was instant. Sorry to disappoint you, Judge Jikoku, but it's your logic that's flawed. Your logic is flawed. According to this autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less have been able to draw himself into that position. Ah! Which begs the question of why the victim's body is curled up in that way. Though the answer should be abundantly clear by now. You're suggesting... The inspector's body took on that posture ahead of its arrival in Fresno Street, before it was coldly turned out onto the floor, and from the inside of a large travel trunk. No! You're quite right. The shape of the body looks exactly as if it had been kept in a confined space. Judge Ikoku, present your trunk for examination. I believe it's very impossible that it will contain traces of the victim's blood. Ugh. Present my trunk. I refuse. What? On what grounds? I am the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Empire of Japan. I should not have put up with this treatment just because of some stripling's baseless accusations. In other words, Judge Ikoku, there is blood in your trunk. I decline to answer that, as Minister of Foreign Affairs. At this moment, you're not a government minister. You are a witness in a trial in Britain's highest court. don't care who you are or what your status outside this courtroom might be, you will not withhold information. Nothing is more important than the truth. Yeah, Runo. Runo? Order in the court. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what's it to be? Thank you, good. You can't be serious. You did it? Have you no shame at all? Kazuma Sogi. What? Very well, I admit it. I did bring the inspector's body into the country. Inside my trunk, exactly as postulated by the defense. What? You... Dear God, outrageous! So it was you. You... No, I admitted nothing more than what I've said. Of killing the man, I certainly have no recollection. What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to mean? I merely disposed of the inspector's body, which was left in my cabin, in order to avoid unwanted attention. As the judicial assistant over there pointed out, I had no chance to throw it in the ocean. So, I decided my only option was to bring it to Britain with me and dispose of it somewhere else. You can't still deny it. If you didn't do it, then who on earth did kill the man? As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity. And moreover, he'd already accepted a mission to take the inspector's life. That's right, who else could it have been? It was you, Kazuma Sogi. You... I never thought you'd stoop to this, Seishiro Jigoku. You've taken the words straight out of my mouth. Prosecutor Kazuma Sogi. You thought by leaving the body in my cabin you could pin the crime on me, did you? Well, the prosecution counsel has already been admitted to visiting the witness's cabin on the night in question. Yes, on an assassination mission, no less. You wouldn't. So, what do you make of that, young stripling? You've heard my testimony now, and that's all I have to say on the matter. I'll admit to nothing more. I don't believe this. Counsel for the defense. What is your position now? The court awaits your response to the witness's assertion. The assertion that on the night in question, the victim's assailant was in fact Kazuma Asogi. This is the dead end, it seems to be. The answer is right in front of me. It comes down to Jigoku, or Kazuma. Both of them have the opportunity to kill Gregson, but only one of them did it. I'm just a step away from proving who. Very well. The defense is ready to respond to the assertion put forward by Judge Jigoku. It's impossible. I don't think Kazuma did it. That's my gut. Judge Jigoku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claimed that logical reasoning is the future of judicial process. It is. No question. Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, it would be possible for Prosecutor Asogi to commit the crime. What? The court will only accept an argument that is supported by compelling evidence. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is there that allegedly demonstrates the impossibility of... Oh, boy. Is it the trunk? Oh no, it's not the trunk. Eh? Oh. Would it be this? Yeah.
Take that!
This itinerary for crew members of the SS Grouse, my lord. This is conclusive proof. An itinerary? How does that prove anything? Judge Jigoku, the moment you acknowledge that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly became much more significant. What? Why? On the night in question, as always, a crewman sentry was on guard outside your door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin. Absolutely, because it's inconceivable that the guard wouldn't have heard it and come to investigate. So that tells us that the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. And that narrows it down to the 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock, as indicated on the itinerary. Yes, I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this, when the evacuation drill took place, the steamship had already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk. Ah. Now, clearly the murder could have only been committed by somebody who was aboard the vessel at the time. Prosecutor Asogi stated in yesterday's proceedings. I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life, so I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent that night in a boarding house in the town and returned to England the following morning. Which I'm sure the court will agree is conclusive proof that Kazuma Sogi couldn't possibly have carried out the killing. I love how it goes from the muted one into the real one. Oh, so good. No, absolutely not. I don't accept that at all. What do you mean? The boy's just saying that to exonerate himself. We can't really trust that he disembarked the vessel. He signed a guest book. Obviously, after he left my cabin, he hid himself somewhere nearby on a ship, just waiting. No, that's out of the question. Isn't it, Kazuma? As the defense rightfully recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. And as I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodations register book. All extremely easy to verify and undeniable proof. Oh, no, There's no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or a government minister. It's time you gave the court an honest answer as a common man. You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported his corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body in the room on Fresno Street and made it look as if the murder had happened here. That's what really happened, isn't it? Seishiro Jigoku. It was that damn trial 10 years ago. That's when all this began. Looking, but he's gonna break it again. Looking back now, my fate was decided that day. I was doomed already. Yep. It's over. My life is over. Yeah, I think it was important. I didn't know he would be a killer. I thought he was going to be a witness. British assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan. A Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. The assassin exchange request arrived from Britain about 1 year ago. Though it was hardly a request, it was a demand. And for that, you decided to recruit Mr. Asoki. But things didn't go according to plan. Your chosen assassin never made it to Britain. And you found yourself unable to dispatch a replacement, because I was already on my way to Britain at that time, in Kazuma's place. And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation: to eliminate the mark myself, personally. Of course, there was but a single opportunity for me to do that. The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume? That's right. This isn't the end. This doesn't answer the question of who the Reaper of the Bailey is. And I don't think there's a single way we're getting through this without that. I decided it would be safest to carry out the plan before my arrival in Britain, so I enlisted the help of my British counterpart, and made arrangements for a pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper. What? The Reaper? There's only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation. The Reaper himself. Ah! So that means the assassin exchange was all planned by the Reaper. I'm not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart. Anyway, the inspector accepted the Reaper's mission, and dutifully infiltrated my cabin on one steamship. But it was all a trap designed to lead him to France and his own death. Oh, how awful. It was past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that evening. I didn't give him time to attack me. I choked him until he lost consciousness. But there was a guard just outside the door, so I left it at that for the time being. Even the slightest noise might have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time, waiting. It was 20 minutes after 10 o'clock. I had intended to finish him by strangulation, but moments before I had the chance, he suddenly came around and went for me in a reckless move. I'd received the British issue gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student. I never imagined I'd have to use it for something like that. So the revolver belongs to you, does it? But then the victim was killed inside your cabin on the SS Grouse, which begs the question of why you arranged for his body to be discovered in the room on Fresno Street. The young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There was no way I could take the body up on deck to throw it over the side. That's precisely where all the crewmen were gathered for the evacuation drill. So before the first-class cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigeration room. And then on arriving in Dover, you concealed the body in your trunk to smuggle it past the border police. I knew I needed to take steps if the police were to be convinced when the body was found in London. In that case, you must have known. You must have had intimate details of Inspector Gregson's intended schedule. Yes, my British counterpart sent me everything I needed to know. The inspector was due at Fresno Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon, in order to meet a man by the name of Hugh Boone, from whom he would take back his police identification. Ah. I decided that man would be the perfect person to set up as a culprit, so I took a hackney carriage over there with the body still in my trunk. That must have been just after we took this photograph with you at the hotel then. Yes, I wasn't expecting the welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling little firecrackers. Miss Venus, of course. I conceived of the camp tricks there and then, so I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy enough firecrackers to replicate a gunshot. What sort of disguise? For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case, so I put that on, although I suspect I drew more attention to myself than I would have otherwise. The hairpiece we found at the scene, the inspector had it ready for the Red-Headed League investigation. I only arrived at the room around 5:15. So I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the notice board, and set up my little candle trick. I arranged it so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later, so that Mr. Boone, who was due to arrive at 5, would walk straight into a trap. Except, at the last moment, I made a careless blunder. What was that? Dropping your gun? Oh, the fish and chips. I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips. Ah! I didn't notice that it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body to the refrigeration room. I put it back into his pocket the following morning, but... well, it seems the warmth of the heated cabin had accelerated the decay of the fish. Anyway, that's everything. All the sordid details of what I did. I've heard enough. We've arrived at the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police inspectors. The witness will be tried in the coming days. For a crime of such a vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty. An exchange of assassins? What a foolhardy idea. Mr. Jigoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us. Enough! I've already told you that I cannot say. Even though as things stand, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again. What are you waiting for? Can't we get this over with now? Can his counterpart pardon him? Is that what's going on? It's finished. All of it. I'm finished. Then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of the court. This man before us has admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. Why did they go in that one? Seishiro Jigoku, it is the opinion of this court that you should be found guilty. And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demanded by this closed court. We're not trying Seishiro Jigoku, though. We're trying Barack Van Zeeks, so why did it go into the guilty box? Moments ago, Mr. Jigoku signed a written confession admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond doubt. Oh, wonderful. Cosmo's gonna object. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, thank you. Is something wrong? I'm just a little troubled by his silence. The true identity of the Reaper of the Bailey and this extraordinary assassin exchange, we do remain in the dark about these mysteries. However, insofar as the indictment brought against the defendant in this trial, we have reached a conclusion. I have every intention of pursuing both mysteries as a prosecutor. As you wish. Now, for the formal adjudication, I hereby declare the
Objection.
defendant. Yep. The prosecution calls for adjudication to be deferred. Counsel? The accused innocence hasn't been fully established at all, and therefore it would be wrong to deliver a verdict at this time. That is the prosecution's unwavering position. He's gonna go for the angle that Van Ziek said did this, like set him up to die. Therefore, he's the one responsible. That's what's gonna happen, even though Van Ziek did not do that. What? But Just Jikoku has already confessed. Nevertheless, Barak Van Ziek has committed crimes for which he must be punished. Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, Prosecutor Asogi. Certainly the murder of Inspector Gregson was actually carried out by Seishiro Jigoku, but it's clear from the witness's testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot, into the sick, merciless assassin exchange. That may be true, but what I want to know is who coerced Jigoku? Who was pulling the strings? The victim went to France having been ordered on a mission for the Reaper, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind this assassin exchange is someone in a position to give such an order. As we've already established, the Reaper himself. Well, certainly, that would appear to follow. The prosecution hereby formally accuses the man in the dock, Barak Van Zieks, of being the Reaper of the Bailey, and furthermore, I'm going to prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. What? No. You may be cute, but you're not as you may be hot, but you're not as hot as him. So like, hotness is what will save the day here. Order. The Reaper of the Bailey is a long-standing mystery, Counsel. Are you suggesting you have some new information with which to build a case? Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zieks very thoroughly in that regard, and they found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he is the Reaper. Perhaps, but circumstances have now changed. What do you mean? It's already been established that the assassin exchange was negotiated with Jigoku by the... It's already been established that the assassin exchange was negotiated with Jigoku by the Reaper himself, which means we now have a new line of questioning by which to determine... identify definitively the man's identity, sorry. That is the prosecution's intention here. I must say I'm surprised by quite how tenaciously you appear to want to besmirch by name. You are guilty of an unforgivable crime, Lord Van Zieks. And I will bring you to justice for it, whatever it takes. That explains Kazuma's silence before. He'll stop at nothing to finish what Lord Van Zieks unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well, whilst it's extremely irregular, I will on this occasion grant the prosecution further opportunity for witness testimony. The defendant will disclose any and all involvement he has had with the Reaper and the assassin exchange. Thank you, my lord, for guiding the court so wisely. I hereby declare this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing. This is so cool. Pray turn a blind eye to the discourtesies. I verify this vile and unremitting accusation hasn't soured the contents of my hallowed chalice. Strongheart took over the judge as the judge because of the international implications of this entire trial. This is a really, really important trial for Britain, so Strongheart took over on his own authority. I mean, it technically works because he's the Lord Chief Justice, which makes him the highest-ranking judge in all of Britain. Lord Van Zieks. I first had to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago now, and ever since that time I've endured the weight of implied guilt that's gone with it. So I welcome the chance to testify now and crush those allegations once and for all. Good. Then let justice decide. Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accused to the stand as the primary witness, in order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey. And what says the defense? Putting the defendant in the witness stand can be extremely dangerous, and Kazuma-sama is so emotional at the moment, he's not thinking logically. Bless me? Excuse me, that's what I meant to say, not bless me. You're right that he's not himself, but I knew it would be like this, and I came here today determined to face him through whatever might arise, as a lawyer and as his friend. Then that's what we must do. The defense has no objection, my lord. Very well, defendant, you will take the witness stand and give formal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper and the Assassin Exchange. I actually really love the visual of Strongheart at the judge's bench. It's so intimidating. And it fits him really well. As you wish, my lord. I've never taken the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill. I've been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement. That's the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day, and how I came to discover the body. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Clearly, therefore, there's no reason to suspect me of being behind the Assassin Exchange. Well, I already know what's wrong with this, so unfortunately I will have to. You deny the allegations you deny all accusations by the prosecution, both that you were the Reaper of the Bailey and that you asked Mai to the Assassin Exchange. I acknowledge that the public at large believed me to be the Reaper. However, that's fallacy, which I alone am in a position to forswear. Naturally, the prosecution believes the testimony just given by the accused to be untrue. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Let me ask you, why are you here? What really brings you to this courtroom? A desire to uncover the truth? Even if the truth proves your client to be guilty. From all my experiences in this courtroom, I've come to realize something. The truth can't be hidden. Sooner or later, it will come out. So it's always my intention to work with my client in pursuit of the truth. I want you to remember what you just said. Enough dilatory chatter. Counsel for the defense, proceed to cross-examine the witness. Ah, yes, my lord. I know exactly what you're thinking, Kazuma. I know you're just waiting to point it out. The contradiction you're convinced lies somewhere in this man's testimony. There's one connection between the three of them. And it's Clint Van Zieks' autopsy report.
Objection!
What is this? An autopsy report. Wait, this is 10 years old. From the autopsy of Clint Van Zieks. What? My brother's autopsy report? My brother's autopsy report? I'm pleased to see the defense doesn't intend to run from the undeniable truth. Order in the court. What reason do you have for presenting a 10-year-old autopsy report here, counsel? I didn't realize how similar my Strongheart and Van Zieks' voices were until they both showed up in the same room. This is the autopsy report of the professor's final victim, and is an indelible link between Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson, and the defendant. Not that accursed name again, the professor. I personally researched all the court records relating to that case. I know that at the time, the autopsy was considered sacrilege to the victim's souls. Inspector Grilson, yeah. And for a member of the aristocracy like Lord Clint Van Zieks, it was unthinkable. But someone implored the powers that be to allow the autopsy to go ahead, Inspector Gregson. He declared that he was certain he would obtain conclusive proof from the procedure. And it was Dr. Wilson who conducted the autopsy. His signature is clearly visible on the document. As promised by Gregson, the autopsy did indeed produce evidence. Evidence that conclusively proved Genshin Asogi was guilty of the murders. In my brother's dying moments, he mustered all his remaining strength to leave that vital clue behind. Indeed, that was the key to indicting the professor for his crimes and... What? Okay, yeah, just make sure. That was the key to indicting the professor for his crimes and the conclusive evidence that convicted him. It enabled Lord Van Zieks to avenge his brother's senseless death. with a marvelous victory in court. A marvelous victory, was it? I wonder if that's really true. What? Could it be the same if it turned out that a key piece of evidence in question was in fact fabricated? If the inspector, the coroner, and the prosecutor all colluded together, cast an innocent Japanese man as a mass murderer and send him to his death. That's outrageous! And now, 10 years later, for some reason, the secret has been threatened and needs protecting, which is why the inspector and coroner had to be silenced, isn't it? By someone in power in Japan and in Britain, using the two killers recruited for the assassin exchange. Order! Order at once! 10 years ago, my father was convicted in this very courtroom as a mass murderer, to be sentenced to death. It was all a sham, and I swore to myself that I'd prove it, which is why I had to come to Britain, whatever the cost. You gonna smash it? Oh. You'll have to forgive me if I feel compelled to toast this vengeful Nippon uses tenacity of purpose here. However, smash. Yep. He who fails to quash his emotion in the courtroom has failed as a lawyer. Come on, Kazuma, you know this won't wash. You're claiming your father was misrepresented in a trial that took place a whole decade ago. You must see that without evidence, that's nothing more than a wild accusation. As it happens, I have evidence. What? As the court has heard, I crossed the channel to France with Gregson on the 31st. I went with him on the pretext of being the assassin recruited to kill Seishiro Jigoku. My true intentions were to make the inspector tell me the truth. What truth? The truth about the evidence, and he acknowledged what I had already deduced. There's a closely guarded secret about what went on in that autopsy 10 years ago. What? A secret? I know nothing of any secret. While we waited for my supposed mark in Jigoku's cabin, I drew my clan's illustrious sword, Karuma, before the inspector's eyes. He very quickly understood what my true motive was. Right, I see. You're that Asogi's young lad, are you? And what? You're gonna cut me down with that thing, is that it? That will very much depend on the answers you give to my questions. I want to know what really happened 10 years ago. The truth, that's all. Before we get into it, let me make one thing clear. I still believe your father was the professor, there's no doubt in my mind. But unfortunately back then, we didn't have the evidence we needed to make the crime stick. So, you admit it then. The evidence used in my father's trial was fabricated. It's for the good of the country. I see what's going on here. The prosecutor... Kazuma probably doesn't know that Lord Strongheart was the prosecutor until the last minute. Because if those three colluded together in any way, it wouldn't have been Van Zieks that did it. It would have been Lord Strongheart that did it. A similar situation happened in another game, actually. Anyway, I was just following orders. Orders? What exactly did you do? Speak. I'm not saying another word. Even if your life depends on it? That's right. Even then. So that's when the tip of the sword broke. Oh, Kazuma-sama. If the results of Clint Van Zieks' autopsy were fabricated, then the investigating officer, Gregson, and the lead coroner, Wilson, must have known about it, but Amigo Toba penned that report. And they could only have been ordered to pervert the course of justice in that way by one man. The man leading the case for the prosecution, Barack Van Zieks. In other words, the defendant did have cause to organize this exchange of assassins. Exactly, and as was established earlier, it was to have been the Reaper himself who liaised with Jigoku in order to arrange the exchange. Ah! So it follows that the Reaper's true identity can only be that of the man who stands accused in this courtroom today, Barack Van Zieks. No. No.
Objection!
Kazuma Asogi. What? What you've just told the court, are you absolutely certain of your facts? Did Gregson really fabricate evidence for that trial 10 years ago? I heard it with my own ears, his shameful admission. In that case, I know. The name of the Reaper. What? Lord Van Zieks. I gave no such orders. I know that for certain. Which narrows down the remaining possibilities to one. Lord Van Zieks isn't the one behind all this. And yes, there is only one other person who could have done something like that. I believe I know who it is too. You. I just had a feeling this name was going to come up. I feel like they're not going for Strongheart here. I don't think that's the thing that they're taking. You know? Oh, maybe it is actually. It has to be, because he was the original prosecutor. I'm going with my gut on that.
Take that!
I knew he was up to no good. The only person who could have arranged the assassin exchange and manipulated the autopsy reports is the Lord Chief Justice himself, Lord Mael Strongheart. What? Lord Strongheart? Yes, it's true that 10 years ago, the defendant handled the prosecution of the professor in court, but he only took over the case after his brother, Lord Clint Van Zieks, had been killed. I can only assume this is the most inappropriate joke in British judicial history. Well, Lord Van Zieks, 10 years ago, I was very new to my profession. But I had a burning desire to avenge my brother's death, so I pleaded for control of the case. The investigation to that point, the supplication of the lords to allow my brother's corpse to be examined, all the evidence I was given, the autopsy reports, it all came from you. I've spent my life since then believing I was in your debt for the way you stood aside and let me handle that trial, but I see now. I was very much mistaken. It was a hugely influential force that caused the inspector and the coroner to break the law 10 years ago, and that same force was still felt a decade later on the other side of the world by Seishiro Jigoku. Lord Strongheart, everything falls into place when we recognize that you are the Reaper of the Bailey. The court awaits your response, my lord. This may well go down in British judicial history, but I assure you, it is no joke. Consider this a formal accusal by the defense. It doesn't warrant a response. A formal accusal, don't be absurd. The defense's claims are utter nonsense, a wild fantasy at best. You're not going to defend yourself? You claim there was some wrongdoing with Lord Clint Van Zieks' autopsy. That's utterly untrue. But I heard it from Gregson's own lips. He admitted to it. And where is your evidence? What? Gregson's dead now, unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to the stand. You mean to say, I forget how the system works in your little backwater country, but in the courts of the British Empire, without evidence, there is no case. I have no intention of entertaining some wild fantasy that can't possibly be substantiated by anyone or anything. Order in the court. Following Inspector Gregson's murder and in the light of Dr. Wilson's death as well, there's really no one left who could testify about the events of 10 years ago. Is there? Yes, there is. There is. So that was the real purpose. So that was the real purpose of the assassin exchange. The court has no business raking over the coals of a case that was concluded a decade ago. The accusal brought by the prosecution and the defense is categorically denied. I take it there are no objections? Asuma, he's more or less waited his whole life for this moment. Is there really nothing else we can do now? Is there no other avenue we can go down in pursuit of the truth about what happened all those years ago? If only there is someone! I know who it is! He's gone to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks, even so far as dispatching an assassin all the way to Japan to ensure Dr. Wilson's silence, and Dr. Scythe won't say anything against Strongheart. But there's still one ray of hope. Actually, there is one person. One person who could still testify about that autopsy. Don't be ridiculous. There's no one left. Who, Ryunosuke? Who? Tell me. Asuma, Please, this trial can't end. Not yet. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the truth. Eugene Mikotoba, because he wrote the autopsy.
Take that!
Heaven help us. Another Japanese. An expert in forensic medicine, my lord. Professor Eugene Mikotoba, 6 years ago. He came to London with Seishiro Jigoku and Genshin Asogi as a visiting student. And what could his testimony possibly tell us? Professor Mikotoba was the primary assistant during the autopsy in question. He was also the person who actually penned the report. Incorrect. The autopsy was carried out by the coroner, Dr. Wilson. The report carries his signature. It was the primary assistant's duty to keep a written record of the coroner's work during the procedure. In actual fact, the coroner merely read over the report in the end and signed it. In other words, Professor Mikotoba witnessed the entire autopsy from start to finish. The vets demand that Professor Mikotoba be summoned as a witness as a matter of urgency. Whatever really happened in that autopsy laboratory 10 years ago is something only he can tell us. The defense's demand is denied. What? But Professor Mikotoba is in London at this very moment. We could summon him to the stand in minutes. No, of course he's not going to agree to it. Strongheart has no intention of summoning anyone who knows. He's too concerned about protecting himself. Prosecutor Asogi, let me refresh your memory, as you seem to have forgotten the prosecution's stance. Only minutes ago, you accused the defendant of being the Reaper and mastermind in the assassin exchange. I did, yes. So present your evidence for those claims and make your case complete. At this time, I don't have the requisite evidence, but that's exactly why we need witness testimony. The professor case is closed. There are no clues in that distant past that would bolster your argument today. I'm afraid to say, Prosecutor Asogi, that you would appear to be possessed by the spirit of your late homicidal father. Now, as I stated earlier, the court has already reached a conclusion with respect to the matter at hand. Inspector Gregson was murdered by Japanese Supreme Court Judge Seishiro Jigoku. As for any hidden circumstances that may exist, they will be investigated in due course by the proper authorities. But we all know what will happen. That will just give the mastermind of the whole venture the time to cover his tracks again. By which you mean me. Your punishment for this contemptible behavior will be decided at a later date. As for you, Prosecutor Asogi, you will be remanded following the proceedings, willingly, I trust, since you gave your word. Ugh. This futile game of revenge is over, young Master Asogi. Ugh. Ugh. That will be all. I hereby declare this to... Okay. I'll do smash. Oh, that was Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes! This is no place for amateur detection, Mr. Sholmes. May I remind you that these proceedings are closed to the general public. You will leave the courtroom at once. Mr. Sholmes was instrumental in the apprehension of Seishiro Jigoku just before he fled from Europe. The court should hear what he has to say. Lord Mailed Strongheart, it's imperative that you refrain from bringing this trial to an end at this stage. Is it really? And why would that be? You need only recall your own words from the opening of the trial to answer that question, if I may. We will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Surely it can't be. The shock of being accused of being the Reaper yourself has erased that from your memory, hasn't it? The whole truth, sir, has already been uncovered. It would seem that we have a great many important members of the judiciary present here today. I put it to you, my dear fellows, should the trial end at this juncture? After all, why have you been invited to attend? To nod along to the prevarications of your superiors? This is a good scene. Order! Order in the court! It seems to me that we stand before a door that leads to a new era of legal practices. A door that is ajar. Let us emerge from the shadows of the Reaper's decade-long ascendancy. For you and you alone, my dear fellows, have the power to push this door open now. The auditors in the gallery have no rights to express an opinion on court proceedings. Silence. He's right. The judge has absolute authority here. Yes, if he calls the trial to an end, it must end, but will that really do? I sense dark things occurring behind the scenes. Dark things indeed. Is there a single person here present who can honestly say he doesn't see the same? What? The trial should go on. Summon the witness. That's right, we need to clear up this... My lord, you assured those present that you would uncover the whole truth here. Vindicate yourself of this outlandish accusation. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's the very foundation of British law. A toast to my dependable colleagues in the gallery. On with the trial! On with the trial! Test stiff by. Oh, with voice acted. Well, my lord? Well, my lord? You hear the voice of British justice, I take it? I think you'll find it will be rather awkward to silence. Well, that was pretty easy. I have no intention of shrinking from these allegations. Bailiff, arrange for the subpoena of the witness at once. As soon as the gentleman arrives at the courthouse, we shall reconvene. A recess won't be necessary, my lord. Yes, it will be! Pardon? Mikotoba is a close friend of mine. He accompanied me today and is waiting in the antechamber as we speak. I do believe he's been enjoying a little trip down memory lane, in fact. What? Professor Mikotoba is here in the courthouse? Mr. Sholmes, you didn't know this would happen, did you? My dear fellow, no one is in a better position to answer that question than you, surely. I wasn't just asking for the fun of it, you know. Well, I must thank you for your assistance in this matter, Mr. Sholmes. However, you are of no further use here. Kindly leave the courtroom at once. But of course, in truth, I find myself rather busy now as a result of these developments. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? I trust you have Iris's little lucky charm with you. Absolutely, it's still in my pocket. She sends her regards and a reminder. If you find yourself at a dead end, the ears are at your disposal. Just one tug, if you please. Oh, of course. In that case, the trial will continue without delay. Bailiff, show the witness to the stand. So it's Lord Strongheart. He's the Reaper of the Bailey. I knew he was up to something from the minute I met him. And I am so validated right now. Y'all have no idea. Any of y'all have been watching since Case 3. I knew he did something. I told y'all. Where exactly is this trial going to take me, I wonder? Just how deep am I about to be plunged into the blackness of the abyss? I'm ready to... Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to head into the heart of this maelstrom. Oh, that's the pun. And confront whatever horrors it tries to drown me under. And that is why his name in the... And that's why they named him Heart Vortex in the fan translation, I guess. Or in the Japanese version. The heart of this vortex. I was wondering for so long what the pun was. I forgot Maelstrom was a word. Well, this is exciting, right? And I made a promise to you, and I broke it once, and I don't intend to break it again. The trial will continue on Thursday. Unless you can convince me that I can get this done in a reasonable time to go to bed. Because I have class tomorrow. What the fuck?
I cannot believe my eyes.
Thank you! Thank you, Flarga! We've hit our sub goal! Oh my god. You are not bribing me. It's gonna eat me inside until I beat it? I know it will, and that's fine. I can be eaten inside. I can't be bribed into doing this, Flarga. You're putting me in an extremely awkward position right now. I don't want to be here for hours. I have school tomorrow. Anyway, thank you for giving that sub to the Nasi Rema, Trill Girl, Oxmoon Frost XO, Poltergust 5000, My Tereda, Following 1000, It Me Robin, Currant, Tommy Garboli, and the Dishnet 34. Why am I reading their full names? I don't know. I know half these people. I am not going to be bribed into... You're putting me in the worst position. A true friend. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what to do. I had all these plans in mind. Ugh. If I'm going to be here for hours, I can't do it, Larga. You understand that, right? You've been planning it? Okay. Well, that makes me feel a little better. I knew you didn't actually plan it as a bribe. I just thought the timing couldn't have been funnier. No, I think the trial will actually conclude on Thursday. Monday night is just not the night for another, like, 4 or 5 hour stream. Rabbit, what the hell? Are you all that invested? Is that what's going on? You don't want to be cliffhanged? It might be short, but you don't remember? Give me one moment to think about something. Oh, I see. You have 1 minute to respond to this poll. If yes wins, I will continue the trial. If yes wins, I will continue the trial. So you all better figure this out, because if yes ties, I didn't say I would do it if yes tied. Hmm? You win. Well, technically neither option won, so